And I moved the page. Okay. You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another podcast. It is the Time Enough podcast where we look at the Twilight Zone and all its iterations. We're at the ground floor right now. We are, season one of the OG show. This is Matt here. We have a special guest today, Lindsey Scharmyn, who's host of Rogue Ways and into all sorts of fun. Is mystical the right word? What's the word you would use? Esoteric?
Fun, mystical, esoteric, conspiracy, consciousness, community. Yeah, we could go on and on. There's like no end to the expansion of things that we talk about on Rogue Ways. So
Right. And I guess my thing is I don't like to necessarily hit those topics head on all the time. I like to, find a piece of interesting media. And I got my I I told this is only the third episode, so I can say it again. In August, I had a few days off, found a bunch of my old Twilight Zone DVDs, and I was at the family house in the countryside, Japanese family house, by myself for a few days, and there was a giant hole in the living room. If you can picture an old Japanese house, it's tatami rooms, yeah, and
yeah.
And they had fire pits, and this is the old house, so the fire pit had been covered up. It had and the wooden plating was getting rotten. So at this point in time, there's just a giant hole in the floor with the dirt and rocks underneath. And I sat by the giant hole and watched the Twilight Zone. It just keyed me back in. So
That's so cool. Now I want to go visit.
Yeah, I got the Blu-ray set. I'm like, I don't have time to watch this. I'm so busy podcasting. I'm like, well, I'll just podcast the box set. So here we are.
That's so awesome. I love how you merge that time management in with what you want to do. It's perfect.
Yeah,
exactly. That's how it should be.
Well, in the show, I mean, it's dated in some ways. I mean, usually okay ways, just like it's old school acting, it's old school TV at its best. But yeah, what we're seeing in these episodes for the most part are still like so, pertinent to today. So that's kind of where I want to get into and bring in, people from all over the spectrum as to what they, to beliefs and things and hit their head on this. Today is Escape Clause, which when I was soliciting a few episodes for you, I think I gave it a description as a selling your soul to the devil. So you're like, yes, please, on that one.
That one, yeah. I want to talk about that.
Right. Before we get into it too deep, I, like to give just a touch of trivia as to who we see in this episode. 1 second. The lead is David Wayne as Walter Bedecker. Wayne enjoyed about 50 years of screen appearances, often as a character actor playing the Cad. He took up Peter Lorre's lead role in a 1951 remake of M and was the Mad Hatter in 1960's Batman. For me, that's the big hit on him. Yeah. Thomas Gomez as the devil or Mr. Cadwallader. He appeared in 60 films during his career and was the first Spanish-American Oscar nominee for his supporting role in Robert Montgomery's 1948 film Ride a Pink Horse. The wife who takes an unfortunate plunge in here is Virginia Christine as Ethel Bedecker. She had a busy career on film and television, but is best known for being Mrs. Olson, the Folgers coffee lady back in the 60s and 70s. And I think we're both a little too young to have caught those, but I was like, that I feel like I've seen that image before somewhere.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, I feel like I've just seen her before, and I was feeling both like motherly and exasperated, which coffee feels exactly like that to me. Like, get a little too wound up, but it's also like, oh, it's warm, and it's like caring for my soul on those cold mornings. So it's interesting. I wonder if I actually have seen that, or if those were just the feelings I was getting.
Yeah, I've taken most of the fun out of coffee. I only drink coffee like partway through my workday when I realize I'm about to teach a private student and like take cat naps on them. So I need to key up a bit. One little more bit, we have a director, Mitchell Lyson, made dramas and screwball comedies from the 30s to 50s and films such as Death Takes a Holiday and Midnight. He spent his twilight years directing television shows such as this one. And one moment, I'm going to bring up the whiteboard for you. Here we go, whiteboard. And as I warned you, I like to get the guests to do their own Rod Serling, or I don't know. Last I did the first episode, and he decided to start doing like a goofy Southern accent. So you can do whatever you want.
I'll take it away.
Okay, here we go.
You're about to meet a hypochondriac. Witness Mr. Walter Bedecker, age 44, afraid of the following: death, disease, other people, germs, draft, and everything else. He has one interest in life, and that's Walter Bedecker. One preoccupation: the life and well-being of Walter Bedecker. One abiding concern about society: that if Walter Bedecker should die, how will it survive without him?
That's easy because we have a CAD. We can live without a CAD, can't we?
I did they this is random, but you were talking about the director. Was this like, did the Twilight Zone have a different director for every episode?
I think they had a few standbys, but generally, yeah, they just get like sort of working man directors to come in. In the first season, particularly, there were basically only 3 writers for the show. I mean, Rod Serling actually wrote 2/3 of all the episodes of the entire run.
Wow.
The other one, big one, I guess, is Walter Matheson, who wrote things such as The Omega Man. I was actually watching for a podcast I'm doing in a couple days, What Dreams May Come, the Robin Williams film. I'm looking at the credits.
That movie.
I'll get to it when that podcast. But the first, I saw it opening night. I hated it. I watched it again a few years ago and loved it. So,
That's funny. Yeah.
Maybe it's for old fogies or whatever, but I don't know. Or maybe I just didn't know enough about like Eastern religions and things when I first saw it, or New Age concepts, things like that.
You settled deeper into your emotional self,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, I can connect with this now. It's kind of deep.
Yeah, as an 18-year watching that one, it was like whatever, but
there are no fighting scenes in this movie. This sucks.
A lot of paint though, but this one I've always loved. This is one of the ones that I've had access to for quite a while. I mentioned watching these episodes by a hole in my living room a few weeks ago, and this was actually one of the ones I put on and was like, I really need to get deeper into these. So this one has a pretty much straight up like Judeo-Christian foothold, which makes sense for 1959 television. So
yeah, I like the way that they portrayed his torturous mental condition, and how he basically was driving his wife insane too with his torturous mental condition. I was like, it's very old school too. Like the wife is very subservient and submissive, and kind of puts up with like a lot of shit, and he has no ability to have any sort of compassion or empathy for her at all. It seems pretty Judeo-Christian as well.
And they still have house calls, so that was amazing.
Yeah, I kind of wish we would go back to that and actually have relationships with doctors and be able to hang out with them for a while. It's like you're in, it's 20 minutes later, you're gone. Like,
yeah.
Do you even know who I am? Have you thought about this at all?
That is one thing. In the Japanese medical system, I at least feel like, oh, I know who my doctors are. I did a hospital stint last year, and I would see my main doctor almost every day. I mean, she might just roll in at the end of the day, but I felt like there was someone in charge. Where I've heard people getting surgery and things in the States and just being like, yeah, maybe I saw them for 5 minutes before, maybe they checked in with me after, and that's about it. So
yeah, and it can switch. They're like, oh, your regular doctor isn't here for surgery day or birthday, whatever the big event is that you're in the hospital for. Like, another guy's gonna fill in, and you're like, I literally have never met this person, and they're just gonna do this life-changing, important procedure. Like, this is insane.
But yeah, my grandfather was like a country doctor, so in the 40s or 50s, apparently he'd go rolling around late at night, sometimes not sober, going out to the deep countryside, getting paid in turtle meat. Try paying your doctor in turtle meat now.
Turtle meat, that's when you've made it.
Yeah. Now my father said growing up they just have like a wide assortments of strange meats and things.
Hey, the way the economy's going, we might get back to that sooner than we think.
Yeah. We already do a few of the bugs in Japan. What have I had? Inago. That's one that's you gotta steel yourself a little to eat. It's locust covered in soy sauce.
Oh God. I thought you were gonna say unagi. I'm like, I love unagi.
Oh, Nagi's great.
Yeah, that's
No,
easy.
this
It's an
is
easy
this is
one.
a few steps past, but no, I'll go to the hot spring, and in the little tourist section, there's a little package of inagos. There's just a bunch of bugs in there. Um,
Yikes.
I had it once. I honestly, it didn't taste bad, but you're like, I'm eating a bug and there's a leg stuck in my teeth, and that's not cool.
Yeah. Oh, and it's like crunchy, and like I don't think I want to
My
ever eat
daughter
that.
was 2 at the time, and she was just like eating them up. I mean,
She
talk
has
about
no preconceptions.
exactly. Talk. She won't
Yeah.
eat it now, but talk about a Twilight Zone moment. There's one.
You're like, is my daughter insane? She's possessed.
I mean, we were basically being polite to the old people, but I think they were playing with me because I was a foreigner. So,
Yeah. I always like I pride myself on when I travel somewhere, I will try the weird food and I will at least once and I'll eat it. But I guess I'd make myself try the bugs just to continue that tradition. But
yeah.
I'm more resistant to that than I am to pig intestine
Oh,
for
right. I
whatever
grew up
reason.
mid-Atlantic where they have scrapple, and I loved scrapple when I was a kid. And once I found out what it was, I lost all interest in it. So it's
I
basically
can't do this anymore.
ground. Yeah,
See,
exactly.
it's all in your imagination. It really is.
So I've heard you talk before about having spirits stuck to you, things like that, and we're getting like this 1959 selling your soul to the devil shtick. So
Yeah,
where does
this
that land with you?
this is so tame compared to what actually happens. And I wouldn't even say that I've like met like the devil, if that even exists. Whatever I've encountered has been really dark and terrifying. And I mean, in this TV show, it's just like a guy. He's just a dude, which is, it's another take on the sort of very human and prideful and like, but he wasn't even dapper. Like we've got the whole new Lucifer show, right, where it's kind of the devil, I guess, if people think Lucifer is the devil. And he's like handsome, and that's like what's alluring to people and interact with him because he's so dapper, I guess, or whatever, sexy. This guy in the Twilight Zone episode is just like a large regular old man. There's nothing scary about him at all, except if you're projecting onto this like the Judeo-Christian, like, oh, that's the devil. Like, I guess that could be scary, just the concept of it, but his voice isn't scary or gravelly. He's not threatening in any way. Like, he doesn't look scary. Like, he's just kind of a salesman.
Yeah, he's a half-ass salesman with a bad deal. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we're all more enlightened now, but the idea you're going to live forever just sounds like a terrible deal in the first place. So
That's exactly what I was saying. I thought the show was going to be he takes the deal and then he lives forever and he realizes what a torture it is to live forever. But then when they were talking about the escape clause, which I then realized, of course, that's the name of the episode, I should have known better. I was like, oh, so he can also die whenever. So I mean, you don't want to sell your soul, period. You don't want to get rid of your soul, but like there is no downside here. That quickly I was shown to be wrong. There is a downside.
I remember as a he makes it 2 days or something.
2 days, yeah. I was like, you didn't even try. Like, man.
He's a cad, yes. I do remember playing mind games with myself as a kid, like, hey, if I get a soda, what if in my mind I make a deal like that in my mind? And I'm like, did I make a deal like that in my mind? I don't know, for a soda. Probably not,
Yeah,
but
yeah, you're like, does this count if I just really wanted it and it happened? Like, who was it that was fulfilling this? It's interesting too, he the hints that he gives, I felt like were enough. He was like, I've always been here, I've never left. What else did he say? And this is the name I'm using this month or something. He has all these hints that he's the devil, but then they have to come right out and say it. I was like, man, is this like an old TV thing that they have to get like really blunt at some point? Or do we still do that? Like, do we have no nuance? Have we never had any nuance where you have to just like figure it out?
Well, my favorite, of course, is Al Pacino's Devil, the Devil's Advocate. Not a great movie. He's just a great devil.
Yeah. I liked Rosemary's Baby, but maybe only because I heard people talk about it for years before I finally saw it. And I was like, this is good.
Yeah, all my quotes are actually Walter quotes. I have Yeah, as he's complaining to his wife, he has I feel a coma coming on. That I thought that was pretty fantastic.
That's a good excuse for work. I can't come in today. I feel a coma coming on. I need to
we're
rest a bit.
we're talking about like the strife on the Fast and Furious movie sets where The Rock would become exasperated because sometimes Vin Diesel's not coming on set today because he's just today's a day to breathe, just to breathe. Which I'm like, cool, yeah, it's a day to breathe, but you are being paid a lot of money, so
You're being paid a lot of money to breathe.
yeah.
Yeah, I want that. I want someone to pay me to breathe.
The other quote, as I say, I just got the water quotes in my notes, but was after Ethel takes her plunge down the building, his wonder what it felt like.
And then I was like, well, why didn't you jump? That was your whole point, was you went up there to jump off the building. She falls down instead, and then you just wonder what it was like and leave. Like, why? There was no explanation for that. That was just how it went.
Yeah. So again, there is shorthand, but I do think this is one. Well, the first one we've recorded for this podcast, which is this being the third episode we've recorded, just for being a straight up stand up episode, Twilight Zone, because we did the it wasn't a Twilight Zone. It was actually about a year before, but written by Rod Serling, and you have Desi Arnaz basically doing the Rod Serling narration, which is totally bizarre. In the actual first episode, which is good, but this one does fire on all cylinders. It's got the weird 50s shorthand, but it kind of makes it more endearing, I feel like.
Yeah. I really just like the quality of it. Like, I remember I had some students, maybe like the 2 or 3 years before I left teaching, I had these kids who would come to my room at lunch and eat their lunch there, and they were these big Dungeons and Dragons dorks and very lovable, very endearing. Well, they, at some point during that time, they started asking me if they could put on Twilight Zone episodes, like on the, projector or whatever, while they were eating. I was like, sure. And so I started seeing a couple of them again. I was like, man, these really were actually very cool. Like, they're still thoughtful and they're still engaging even after all this time. And how cool that even though they're dorky and it probably wasn't like a trend at the time, but it's still cool that there's young people who can like find it and relate to it and love it too, even now.
Exactly. So I have not seen some of the later iterations yet. I think I saw the 80s one, which I would actually say Tales of the Dark Side was probably stronger in the 80s, but
yeah, I think that's what I remember more, actually, Tales of the Dark Side, probably because it like gave me nightmares.
And that is one I might get to on this cast at some point. But yeah, that one I remember. It's the anger management one where the guy basically had something installed that's going to give him a heart attack if he gets too angry. So that one stuck with me since like age 6.
That's dangerous. Well, to go back to this one and things that are happening to you that are dangerous, this deal that he's making with the devil lies. This is actually what I always try to point out to people, because a lot of people in the community I work with are like, oh, I can summon demons or beings or entities or whatever, and it's fine because if you just follow steps 1 through 10 or whatever, like they're like contained. And I'm always like, God, why would you risk it though? What if they're not, like, they're tricky? Like, that's the whole thing we're always told about devils, is they're tricky as all get out. And why would you risk it? You think you're very smart, you think you're very intelligent, but if these entities are real and they exist, they've had infinite time to have a much more developed, nuanced mind than yours and understand trickery much better than you probably ever will. So this devil tricks him too, but it's just a flat out lie, right? He says, oh, you'll never even miss your soul, you'll never even know it was gone. And I believed him. I was like, oh, maybe he won't even realize that his soul is gone, and it's really truly something that like he's not aware of, he can't connect with or whatever. But as soon as I was seeing that he wasn't having any emotional, like he had become a psychopath, basically, like a sociopath, like he had no response when his wife died. He had no ability to enjoy anything. He had no ability to get a thrill off of any of the experiences he was having. I was like, oh, so he does notice a difference. So he did lose something. So the devil just straight up lied to him.
He's never going to be able to join James Brown's JBs at that point. Yeah. No soul.
He got no soul.
Well, yeah, he's just I wrote here he's a fantastic prick, It definitely made me think of Bill Murray trying to off himself in Groundhog's Day. Although he was really trying to do it, right? This guy was, he was already bored after one day. So
I'm like,
You know,
man, I mean, that might be what it's like to be a sociopath or a psychopath. Like, I don't know, right? But it might be like that, where you're like, wow, literally nothing brings me any enjoyment, thrill, or any other emotion. There's just nothing.
drinking ammonia becomes weak lemonade. Yes. But
Like
I
lemonade,
so
weak lemonade.
yeah. Obviously, the entity here is the devil, which is a fully formed character. But as far as what you may run into in actual metaphysical circles, I sort of surmise a lot of these things would be things that kind of need your attention. The point of the deal is they don't really exist unless you're giving them the proper attention.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the things that's not really understood by people. Is I shouldn't say it's not possible. It's very unlikely that your soul would get trapped somewhere, right? But it's a lot easier to just have your attention, your imagination ensnared, and to be caught in all sorts of spirals that have tricked you into continuing to give you their attention and energy, including
In
depression.
the end, that's a
And
game. I guess you get out of it eventually, but you might take a quite long detour. So
yeah, and it might be quite unpleasant for that entire time. And who knows? I always feel like if you're in a relationship like that with one of these entities and it's sucking off of your emotional excess, including like depression and anger and anxiety and all of these things, that it can induce or lead you towards inducing for yourself, then you die in that relationship or that situation. I just feel like your next, I believe incarnation is the thing. Your next incarnation, you're carrying that with you. You're like starting from there. I don't know. I would never risk it.
yeah,
It's
I'm
better to be
thinking of
clear and
what
independent.
I've met. I've met some dream characters, dream guides, sort of things, like the same on multiple occasions. I mean, that was cool. There's no deal there. That was
It's a friendly relationship.
the other thing, just in basic meditation, which I don't get this so much these days, but starting off, I'd feel like I'd have like kind of faces peering in every here and again. So
They're just checking out. They're like, you good? Okay, good. Like back out again.
but yeah, very kind of prismatic, looking things, and definitely having a few seconds of being clearly able to see them. So they don't peer in so much these days, but I guess I don't. I've heard that is a phenomenon that is supposed to pass anyway, so I guess it passed.
Yeah, or maybe you didn't need those specific ones anymore, or maybe they're coming in different ways, or sometimes I notice that entities that you might call guides are kind of inviting you to go deeper and look in different ways to connect with them, and so there can be all kinds of things going on.
Yeah, I'm actually disappointed. This year started off with such deep dreaming, and since then I often feel like I've been up to something, but yeah, I just haven't had the recall so much this year.
You know
Which is a
what?
bummer.
This is crazy. I've had some terrible ulcers, like really bad systemic ulcerative sort of condition going on in my digestive system. And so I've been looking into, how can I help, make these subside? Because I know what the root cause is and I'm dealing with that. And in the meantime, how can I treat this symptom? And I heard that drinking cayenne pepper in like kind of a shot or like a little bit of water and just getting it down is actually really good for it, which makes no sense to me, but whatever. So I'm going to try it. So I try it and it does seem to help a lot. And so I'm doing it like 3 or 4 times a day. And one of those times is right before bed. It's just an eighth teaspoon of cayenne water, shoot it down. I've been having them wild. I already have exceptionally vivid, very strong recall, like all kinds of dream work that I do. And it has shot up to like another level or two since I've been doing that. And I went reading and I found out that cayenne is apparently a dream producer. And I had no idea. So if anybody out there, this is now a new trick in the bag for me when people are like, how can I have better dream recall? I'm like, drink some cayenne pepper right before bed.
I might have
And
to
it
give
doesn't
that
hurt
a
you.
try. Yeah, because I got a good 10 pages down in January when I was just having wild stuff coming through. And since then, I haven't felt compelled to put so much on the paper there. I have found when I'm busier, I tend not to have so many dreams, or when I'm being creative. The past couple months, I've been working on music pretty hard, and it's like all of the energy goes into there. I guess you only get so much energy to use in certain places.
Maybe, yeah.
If I
That's
have a
interesting.
lucid dream, maybe I'll have like one more like a week after, and after that it's like you gotta like rebuild the energy to do that again or something. I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, that's the other thing I teach people too, is how to build that spiritual energy, if that's what you want to call it, so that you have like an even bigger vat to draw off of, so you can do all
exactly.
those things at once if you wanted to, which is only important to some people. And
Well, yeah, you got the Tibetan masters that can just like drift on in and out of that any old time because they're
yeah.
working from the infinite or something. So,
Dude, yeah, for real, there's some people who can do some wild things.
but just back on the episode, yeah, this guy is just so closed off to everything, you know. I mean, and becoming immortal makes him even more closed off to everything because he's lost contact. He's a sociopath now. He's lost complete contact with his surroundings. He has nothing deeper. So,
And I kept
yeah,
thinking that, I was like, if he only knew how to meditate and like get peace, then you could actually have like this really constructive remainder of however long you wanted, eternity, except you don't have a soul. So I guess what's the point?
yeah, just to punch us down to the end, we have him, like being wrong. Well, he confesses to killing his wife, which isn't even true. She did stumble bum down the building, um, with him getting life in prison, which is going to be forever. I'm like, well, that's your opportunity to learn meditation, maybe,
That's what I
or
was thinking. I was like, you could read everything you want. You could learn to meditate. Like you could do all these things even in prison. And
maybe,
they'd let you out in like 50 years or so.
yeah, being called life. I mean, there's parole. I mean, he tech one again karmatically he has a whole lot against him, but killing his wife is not actually one of those things. So
No, it's not. And it's ironic that he wanted to test out the electric chair and just see what would happen. Where I was like, oh, now they're gonna think he's like a god or something, or like an ant, because he's not gonna die right in front of them with all this juice flowing through. But no, the irony of being in prison forever was the twist, the
yeah, we did.
ironic twist.
You got to take the Highlander route where you keep a low profile until it's time to chop off someone's head.
Yeah.
but but again, that's not a complaint about this episode because
No.
it's all the pieces are laid out in such a fun way. It doesn't matter. And yes, you're really supposed to dislike this guy. So one of the questions I like to get to on here is one is who took the trip to the Twilight Zone, which I think is pretty clear in this one. Um, did they deserve it? I don't think we've had anything good to say about him, but you can counter that if you'd like. Does anyone deserve this?
I think, yeah, I guess because he knowingly chose it.
Yeah.
Like super knowingly and super openly, just like, yeah, trade my soul for that. Cool. Like no hesitation, in fact. So yeah, I mean, you deserve what you agree to and what you bring forth, right?
Right. And he is that's interesting. He does have an absolute faith in the system, He's got the house calls, like they're going to figure out what's wrong with me, all of that sort of thing. This institution that's put me in prison. I mean, if you're immortal, wait 250 years and who knows what that building won't even be there anymore,
I know, it's like at some point you're gonna be able to escape. Come on, like have an imagination.
I mean, he could
No.
practically just walk out, right? They're going to shoot at him and he's just going to keep strolling. So,
Well, it's interesting that, his hypochondriaism from the beginning, which is what caused all of this, was maybe similar to his, like how quickly he gave up, where he just has no faith in himself, like not in his immune system and not in his ability to heal and not in his ability to make it however long until he probably would get released or break out or whatever would happen. He just, nope, no will, just give up. I'm done for. There's no point in trying.
he's got to do some shadow work, man.
Yeah, like truly.
But speaking of trippy, the other question I like to throw at the end of these is I used to do like psychedelic record reviews, and I do the quality, and then I do the tripometer. So I like to put these Twilight Zones on the tripometer on a 1 to 5 scale. Decimal points are acceptable. Where do you want to put this one?
Honestly, I guess I'm putting it on the scale of my own life. And if I chop my life up into sections, like at what point did I like put my own mind through this thought experiment of like, would I live forever? Would I want to live forever? What would I give to live longer or whatever? Like, how would that go? And that was a long time ago. So maybe like a 1.5. Is that rude?
No, that's fine. That's
Okay.
because see, I'm going higher because it's got the trippy situation. But yes, his attitude definitely deflates that. So
Yeah, maybe that's it.
to what degree it deflates it is fine. So
Right, because like I said, I was expecting also the other take where you like do live forever and you see societies come and go and crumble and like governments and whatever, and then eventually you're just bored. You're like, okay, like what's the point anymore? I've done everything I could do. There's nothing left.
no,
That
I
would be a
have
little bit trippier for me.
I have not watched it yet, but there is a later one this season which has the man who has lived for 1,000 years. So they
Okay.
they
So they
might
do
hit
go
it up a
there.
little more there. Yeah, they do go there at some point. I'm not quite sure how they go there. Like I said, my pile of DVDs included about 50 episodes, which are the ones I've seen for the past
Wow.
20 years, and not the ones outside of that. So that's part of the fun of working through this
Well, and
chronologically.
if I were rating just the quality of the episode and the show and how much I enjoyed it, it'd be way higher than that.
Yeah. That's why I'm going with the tripometer, because none of these really are too low in quality. So I'm like, I'm not going to see it. I mean, if we're watching it now, it holds up.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
how trippy is it? That I think that's especially in the pre 60s psychedelia thing. It's
Yeah, like the how far ahead of its time it was is its whole own concept that we're not even going to touch on probably. But I love how short it is. I don't think that was very common, or maybe I'm wrong. It seems like that's a newer thing where we have very short stints, and things kind of feel like they like stretched out and took forever in older shows and movies, but not in the Twilight Zone. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's how it feels.
no, there's actually a real life example, because season 4 did go to an hour show,
Oh wow.
and kind of suffered in quality because they did
Ah.
have to stretch these things out now. So season 5 went back to being a 30-minute show
They
because
tried it and they were like, okay, no, that does not work.
yeah, I mean,
Like,
it was the network telling them to do that. I think the makers did understand it worked well as 30 minutes, and no, there are a couple classics in there, but they don't get shown as much syndication because they're the wrong length and that sort of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Any final points you want to throw out on this one? I guess I slowly worked us through the story, but
I guess I just will keep going back. Like I have always thought I don't understand people who want to live longer than they are living or going to live, or especially forever. I'm like, forever? Like we literally can't even conceive of forever at all. It doesn't even make sense to our brains. We have no examples of it in reality, and we have no idea what it means. So I can't understand that. I can't understand even really wanting to live hundreds of years. Like 100, that'd be okay. I used to think even that was like way too long. Like I would wish that I were dead way before then. But now that I'm, nearing 40, I 100 seems like doable. Like I could do that and it could be pretty cool still and pretty engaging. And I cannot imagine living much longer than that. And I definitely don't understand wanting to live for a really long time. And I think that it's a masculine thing. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems to be that if I'm talking to people, the people who do want to live a long time and forever tend to be males, and the people who are like me, who are like, why would you want that, tend to be females. So I don't know what that is, but it seems to be true.
well, yeah, it's like I started to get into, I guess, the more metaphysical stuff about 5 years ago, and it was weird because I actually did come in like the mind of I got the monk template. I'm a guy, right? But as I go, I start reading things. Yeah, not too many men get into this stuff. I'm like, what, huh?
Like I'm
So
here.
yeah. Which I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah. I mean, once you start to experience that once you start to know there's more out there, it's like, of course you wouldn't want to live forever. That's a stupid idea.
Yeah, right. And especially if reincarnation is real, I'm like, cool, we're here for this long and then we're going to go do something else. And there's a, pattern and reason to it that probably is very logical and efficient. And so let's go see what happens
Yeah,
next.
you don't want to play level 1 of Mario forever.
Right. Exactly.
Got to go
Exactly.
underwater, go warping through zones, things like that.
Gotta get to the ice zone.
Uh, um, Lindsey, I guess we'll wrap up here. Can you send people to your podcast and anything else that may be cooking for you at the moment.
Yeah. Rogue Ways is everywhere on every podcast app. It's Rogue Ways as in pathways, not waves as in the ocean waves or sound waves. So Rogue Ways and Middle Path is my other show. They're both available on Rockfin, on YouTube, and on any podcast app. And if you want to get all kinds of other stuff from me, including spiritual guidance and upliftment, tarot and books, and just so much, you can go to rogueways.org.
As for this one, this is still the ground floor. I haven't made any of the social stuff yet, but it's the time of the podcast, which I imagine I will be making the Twitter thing, the Facebook thing. Fortunately, all I do on Facebook and Twitter is like post podcasts. So
So you get to stay there forever then, because I say things like, I'm going to kill that person with my Care Bear stare and get banned for 30 days.
Oh yeah, I see people get, I now recognize names where I'm like, oh, this is their banned persona, like their main account's been banned, so they're coming in as this now. So my wife was like, should I make friends with this person? I'm like, yeah, that's Alex. He got kicked off again, so he's using this now.
A secret identity.
No,
tell the CIA.
I've long since stopped putting any opinions on social media.
It's dangerous.
If you listen to the podcast, I might say an opinion or two, and I post that. But you have to take a few steps to get there. So it's not just casual shit talking, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, and then there's some sort of engagement, humanity, hopefully, in that interaction, and maybe that helps buffer the opinion when it hits the person's mind.
Exactly. Oh yes, I should mention the other podcasts that we do. I talk about sci-fi films and Matt Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary, ephemeral films, and the Oral Hygiene podcast. All of this is under the Patreon umbrella of Podcastio Podcastius, which is not a Harry Potter reference.
More Latin, less magic.
Yeah, no, I have not seen this show, but there's a British show called I think it's Peep Show, and
yes.
Okay, there's a consortius or something, and that actually is supposed to be the what the name comes from. So
that's awesome. You should actually watch Peep Show. It is hilarious and awesome. It took me a while. It took me multiple episodes to sink in, but after that I was like hooked, and I love British humor, so maybe I'm a weirdo, but it's good stuff.
Well, my regular podcasting co-host is British, so it makes sense. But yeah, there's another hit for that. So maybe I'll, have to watch the namesake of our Patreon at some point.
That'll be the next show that you make. So.
Okay, so in the words of Freddie Mercury, I guess, who wants to live forever? Or Highlanders.
There can be only one.